Google Sheets, statistical functions, and 4 questions to test your skills. You can find a link to download the spreadsheet in the description below, and if you're ready, then let's go. Okie dokie. For your first question, you must rank the sales agents from 1 to 10 so that the sales agent with the highest total sales is ranked number 1. To successfully solve this question, the easiest thing to do would be to use the rank function. The rank function takes a value and then compares it to a range of values in order to determine that value's rank in comparison. And that, of course, is exactly what you want. So, in cell D5, enter the formula equals rank function, and then select cell C5, which is the sales number you want to calculate the rank for. Now for the second argument, select the range C5 through C14, which contains all of the sales numbers. Now when you copy this formula down for all of the sales agents later on, you don't want the range of C5 through C14 to change. In other words, you want this to be an absolute reference. So, to make this an absolute reference, press the F4 key on your keyboard. This automatically adds in the $ for you to make this an absolute reference. You can now close parentheses and press enter. Then, to finish up, use the fill handle to copy the formula down for all of the sales agents. And just like that, you've successfully ranked all of the sales agents from 1 to 10. That completes question number 1, so let's move on to question number 2. For question number 2, your goal is to calculate the average total sales for all sales agents assigned to the West region. To pull this off, you can use the average if function. This function will calculate the average of only those numbers that meet a certain condition. And in this case, it is the total sales numbers that belong to those sales agents that have been assigned to the West region. So, selecting cell F5, enter the following formula. Equals, and then the average if function. Next, you want to select the range of cells that you will be testing, and in this case, that is the range of regions in C5 through C14. Now for the second argument, you want to enter in the criteria that the range you just selected must meet. In this case, you are testing for the West region, so you enter in West in quotation marks. After that, you will have to add a comma to move to the third argument, and since the average range, which is the range that contains the sales numbers, is different than the range that you selected for the first argument, you need to include the third argument for this function. And so, for the third argument, select the range that you will calculate the average for, which is of course D5 through D14. You can then close parentheses and press enter. The average if function looks in the range of C5 through C14 to see which cells contain the value of West, and after that, the average if function calculates the average for those numbers in the range of D5 through D14, which correspond with the cells that contain the value of West. And, as a result, you get back the average total sales for only those sales agents assigned to the West region. Awesome. That completes question number 2, so let's go ahead and move on to question number 3. For question number 3, your task is to list the top 3 sales agents with the highest total sales. To solve this question, you will need to use the large function combined with the XLOOKUP function. You will use the large function to calculate the top 3 total sales numbers, and then you will use the XLOOKUP function to return the sales agents associated with those numbers. With that in mind, go ahead and select cell F5, and then enter the following formula. Equals, XLOOKUP function, large function, and then select the range C5 through C14. Now you want to make sure that this is an absolute reference so that it does not change when you copy this formula down later on. So, press the F4 key on the keyboard to make this an absolute reference. Now, for the second argument of the large function, select the number 1 in cell E5. you want to leave this reference as a relative reference, because when you copy the formula down for the next 2 rows, you want to reference the 2 and then the 3. That way, you get back the second and third largest numbers. And so, that completes the large function, so you can close parentheses and then add a comma. Now for the second argument of the XLOOKUP function, you want to select the range C5 through C14. And that's because the lookup value will be the number calculated by the large function, and then you want to search for that value within the range of C5 through C14. You also want to make this an absolute reference as well, so press the F4 key on your keyboard to make it so. And then, for the third argument of the XLOOKUP function, select the list of names as the return values in B5 through B14. And once again, make this an absolute reference by pressing the F4 key on your keyboard. You can now close parentheses and hit enter. Once you do, the large function calculates the first largest number and then passes that value to the XLOOKUP function. That value is then used to look up the corresponding sales agent. And so, to complete question 3, you can simply use the fill handle to copy the formula down to get back the second and third highest performing sales agents accordingly. How amazing is that? With question 3 complete, let's move on to our final question for this challenge. For question number 4, your goal is to calculate the maximum total sales among sales agents assigned to a Western region who have generated over 250 new leads. To solve this one, I highly recommend using the maxIfs function. This function will allow you to calculate the maximum based off of certain conditions, which works perfectly in this scenario. So, in cell G5, enter the formula equals maxIfs function, and then for the first argument, select the range E5 through E14, which will be considered for the maximum. Now for the second argument, you want to test for regions containing the value of West. So go ahead and select the regions in C5 through C14. Then for the third argument, type in quotation mark, asterisk, West, asterisk, and quotation mark. The asterisks on either side of West will act as wildcard characters. In other words, these characters will match any text that comes before or after West. So you will get a match as long as the word West is somewhere in the full text value. Now moving on to the fourth argument, you want to test to see which lead numbers exceed the value of 250. So you select the lead values in D5 through D14. Then, for the fifth argument, you enter quotation mark, greater than symbol, 250, quotation mark. And then you can close parentheses and hit enter. Once you do, the maxIfs function checks to see which regions contain West and which lead numbers exceed 250. The function then calculates the maximum value among those that sit in the rows that meet both of the tested criteria. And, as a result, you get the maximum total sales among sales agents assigned to a Western region who have generated over 250 new leads. And that officially completes question number 4 and your 7th Spreadsheet Life Google Sheets challenge. Easy? Hard? How did you do and what did you think? Leave me a comment below and let me know. Also, if you enjoyed this video or had a ton of fun, I highly encourage you to subscribe. That being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and until next time, I will see you in the next Spreadsheet Life video.